All right, so good evening. And welcome back to JPCE Watchdog News Report. This is going to be a special report. We're going to talk about global conflicts and the shifting geopolitics, and we're going to get more into our RAND report research. So welcome back to JPCE Watchdog News Report, now part of JPCE Watchdog Ministries. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble. Tonight's report covers the most pressing global conflicts. The RAND Corporation's latest research on counterinsurgency and global stability, and the potential ramifications of political shifts on international security. What is the RAND Corporation? The RAND Corporation is a renowned global policy think tank, and it conducts research through rigorous process of data collection, analysis, and peer review, ensuring the highest standards of accuracy and reliability. The first thing we're going to talk about this evening, right? It's kind of a most current thing right now. So point number one this evening, Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement. Is it a true path to peace or temporary truce? And the recent Israel and Hamas ceasefire agreement, brokered by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, represents a significant shift in the Middle East conflict landscape. This agreement, coming after over a year of war, aims to facilitate a phased prisoner exchange, humanitarian relief, and Israeli military withdrawal from parts of Gaza. Here's just some key elements of the agreement. We'll break it more down as time goes on, but here's just some key elements of this agreement. So the ceasefire duration, a 42-day truce, potentially extendable if conditions are met, okay? Hostage exchange. 33 Israeli hostages were released and returned for 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, excluding participants of the October 7th, 2023 attack. Israeli military withdrawal, right? Pullback from densely populated areas with monitored redeployment. Okay? Humanitarian aid oversight. The Rafah border crossing, set to open for civilian evacuations, is limited to only 50 wounded individuals per day, under strict Israeli and Egyptian oversight. Some of my research in the RAND reports counterinsurgency perspective on ceasefires. So the RAND report, CPA 614-2 report, provided crucial insights into ceasefires and conflicts like Israel and Hamas. According to RAND's research on counterinsurgency and stability operations, successful peace building requires a unified command structure. Historically, ceasefires fell within fragmented leadership, leads to conflicting orders, as we've seen in Iraq and Afghanistan. Intense external mediation. The RAND's research highlights the need for long-term international oversight to prevent militant groups from using ceasefires as a tactical pause before resuming hostilities. Clear political frameworks. The May 2024 agreement between Israel and Hamas lacks a comprehensive political roadmap, raising concerns about its long-term stability. What's next? International analysts warn that without a clear governance transition, Gaza could face internal power struggles similar to those in post-withdrawal Iraq 2005, 2011, or post-Soviet Afghanistan 1992, 1996. The ceasefire is a short-term solution. It is. Let's say that again. The ceasefire is a short-term solution, but the real test will be sustaining peace beyond the agreed truce. If the ceasefire were to fail, It could lead to reinsurgence of violence and return to a cycle of conflict, underscoring the critical need for a comprehensive and sustainable peace plan. What's next? Russia-Ukraine war. It's a prolonged conflict and cost-opposing strategies. So war of attrition, right? We'll talk more about that in a minute, right? As Russia-Ukraine war enters its third year, RAND reports RB 10014 report on overextending and unbalancing Russia provides valuable insights into how military, economic, and ideological strategies shape the battlefield. My findings in the RAND report on Russia's weaknesses talked about economic pressure, U.S. energy policies to increase global and oil gas supply, limit Russia's revenue streams, weakening its war efforts, sanction and financial constraints. The RAND report assesses that comprehensive financial sanctions, particularly on Russia's defense sector, could impose long-term economic damage. Military overstretch. Russia is overextending its forces by fighting a two-front war, as in the RAND. Ukraine's counteroffensive in eastern Donetsk, NATO's increasing presence in the Baltic region. Current battlefield dynamics. Bakhmut and Kherson remain contested as Ukraine leverages Western supply weaponry. Russia's recruitment crisis. Reports indicate that Moscow is relying on forced conscription from occupied Ukraine territories, raising questions about troop morale. What's next? The RAND report suggests that Russia's military resilience, a key factor in the global security landscape, depends on its ability to maintain political cohesion and economic endurance. The RAND strategy of cost-imposing measures, such as increasing U.S. support for Ukraine, could intensify Russia's vulnerabilities in the long run, but the future remains uncertain. What are the key characteristics of an attrition warfare in Ukraine? Let's talk about that. Number one, prolonged fighting, stalemate. The war began with Russia's full-scale invasion in February of 2022 and has turned into a long-term battle of endurance. Front lines have mainly remained steady in many regions, with neither side achieving a breakthrough in recent months. Massive losses on both sides have been reported. High casualty rates and destruction of equipment continue, with estimates of 10,000s of soldiers lost on both sides. Ukraine faces shortages in workforce and ammunition, while Russia absorbs high losses but has a larger population and military reserves to sustain the fight. Do I know the losses on both sides? No, because both sides do not have good information on the losses. Artillery and drone dominance. Both countries rely heavily on artillery barges, precision strikes, and drone warfare, reinforcing the attritional nature of combat. Russia's drone and missile attacks target Ukraine's energy and infrastructure, while Ukraine uses Western-supplied weapons to strike Russia's supply lines deep in Russia, right? Next, economic and resource drain. Russia's economy, despite sanctions, is heavily materialized and geared towards sustaining the war effort. Ukraine depends on Western financial and military aid, making continued support from NATO and the EU crucial for its survival. Next, Western aid versus Russian industry. Ukraine's ability to continue fighting hinges on sustained Western military support, like weapons, ammunition, and financial aid. Russia has adapted its defense industry for mass production of weapons, with growing support from Iran, China indirectly, and also from North Korea. Winter warfare and defensive lines. The war has seen multiple phases of trench warfare, minefields, and defensive fortifications, which is kind of reminiscent of World War I style tactics. Ukrainian offensives have struggled against Russia's layered defenses, making rapid advances costly. Political will and morale. Both countries are locked in a battle of willpower. Ukraine fights for survival while Russia seeks to outlast Kiev in the Western Resolve. Domestic political pressures in both nations and among Ukraine's allies play a critical role in determining how long each side can endure. Potential outcomes: continued stalemate. The war could drag on for years without a significant shift in military capabilities or even strategy. Breakthrough via new tactics, weapons. The war could shift if either side develops a game-changing strategy, such as Ukraine's use of long-range strikes or Russia's improvised offensive operations. How about a nuclear strike at some point, right? Negotiated settlement. While unlikely in short term, exhaustion on both sides may eventually push them towards diplomatic talks. That's to be fair, right? Though neither side appears ready to concede yet. This war ultimately tests who can last longer, militarily, economically, and also politically. It's fair. Next, the U.S. political shift and its global implications. With Donald Trump preparing for his second inauguration, the global order is set for another geopolitical shift. Trump's America's First foreign policy could lead to significant changes in U.S. involvement in Ukraine. Will Trump cut military aid, as some reports have suggested? Middle East diplomacy. A more rigid stance on Iran, possibly undermining current Israel Gulf normalization talks. China-U.S. tensions. Will Trump reignite trade wars or escalate military posturing in the Indo-Pacific? The RAND report long-term analysis of U.S. global strategy. NATO relations. The RAND research shows that weakening U.S. commitments to NATO could embolden Russia. China policy. Trump's previous economic tariffs on China had mixed results. Nobody ever tell me I'm not fair. So Trump's previous economic tariffs on China had mixed results. While they hurt China's tech industry, they also strain U.S. alliances in Asia. Middle East engagement. The RAND findings suggest that a U.S. pullback from diplomacy could worsen regional conflicts, especially in Lebanon and Syria. What's next? It could be, we could see an isolationist U.S. policy. Could force Europe and Asia to develop independent military strategies, reducing U.S. influence in NATO and the Pacific. Next, emerging conflict zones, the next global flashpoints. Beyond Ukraine and Gaza, several regions are at risk of significant conflict escalation in this year, in 2025. The potential for conflict escalation should be a cause of concern for all of those interested in global security. Somalia, the Al-Shabaab reinsure. RAND studies on counterterrorism indicate that the withdrawal of the African Union stabilization forces could embolden Al-Shabaab, leading to a Taliban-like takeover. U.S. and UN counterterrorism strategies are struggling to contain insurgency growth in East Africa. South China Sea, Taiwan, and U.S.-China tensions. So China's naval expansion in the South China Sea is alarming. Is alarming U.S. allies. The RAND report on maritime security suggests that China's increasing gray zone tactics could lead to military confrontation by 2026. Whoa. I thought it was already going to come this year. That's why we keep researching, right? That's why I do what I do. Houthis attacks in the Red Sea. Yemen Houthi rebels have escalated attacks on international shipping routes, disrupting global trade. The RAND report's assessment of hybrid warfare tactics suggests that this could trigger Western military retaliation. Final thoughts for tonight. The road ahead. The RAND's extensive research on counterinsurgency, nation building, and economic warfare reveals a world on the brink of further instability. Whether Israel's ceasefire holds, Ukraine withstands Russia, or new conflicts emerge in Asia and Africa, global security is at a critical juncture as we speak. Here are some of my key takeaways. You all let me know in the comments, no matter what platform you're on. Number one, The Israel-Hamas ceasefire is what? The Israel-Hamas ceasefire is a temporary solution. That is my objective opinion. The Israel-Hamas ceasefire is a temporary solution. I'm saying that because I do the research. Without a long-term governance plan, the conflict could reignite, and it could. It could kick off again. Number two, Russia could be economically vulnerable, but Ukraine's survival depends on sustained Western support. Okay, U.S. political shifts will redefine alliances, with Trump's foreign policy expected to reshape global military strategies. New conflict zones, Somalia, Taiwan, the Red Sea, require urgent attention to prevent full-scale wars. And I'm going to close out this evening. So thank you all for tonight's report. This is JPCE Watchdog News Report. Please like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble. Always stay informed, always stay aware, and I'll see you in the next following report. This is JPCE Watchdog Ministry, News and Talk. I'm becoming the voice of global truth, or I want to become the voice of global truth. I love you all so much. Have a very blessed evening. Thank you for following this report. I'm going to keep the research going. I love you all so much. Enjoy these. Have a blessed evening.